Smart strategy, real conversations, bigger margins. This is Chasing the Margin podcast.
Welcome back to Chasing the Margin. Today we have the doctor in the house, Mr. Chris Manning. So, Chris, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Troy. Glad to be here.
Chris, I called you the doctor. So explain to the listeners who you are, what you do, why I called you the doctor in the first place.
It's come about because of my social media. I'm a master technician for Mercedes. Been there 15 years, in the industry for 20. And I started posting on social media in 2017, and one of my coworkers gave me the name Doctor AMG because I was playing with different handles, and I was like AMG Doctor, all these things. And he was like, "Why would you be a doctor when you can be the doctor?" And that's how Doctor AMG came about. Yeah.
So I think it's a really interesting spin, especially like reading through your LinkedIn, your social media, kind of how you present yourself to the world on, not just being a mechanic, but actually being, the way you phrase it, like a doctor in mechanic, and then especially in the AMG Mercedes space. And you and I have talked about that a little bit, and I definitely want you to kind of share for the car enthusiast listening, for the entrepreneur listening, like why Mercedes, what's so special about like that side of it. But where we like to start is kind of going back to the beginning of each guest and their career path. And I want to take it back to like, why even choose to get into cars or become a mechanic in the first place?
For me, that's kind of easy, and that's not simple for everyone, but I enjoyed taking things apart, putting them back together, figuring out how things worked since I was like 4. Mm-hmm. There was actually a time, I've told this story a few times on my social media, but I think I was 4 or 5, and my parents had just bought a brand new Kirby vacuum cleaner. And I went to my dad's toolbox and took it apart, like down to where it was no longer functional. All the pieces were spread apart, and I could not put it back together at the time. But, it kind of just went from there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always enjoyed that. My dad helped me, fix our cars while I was growing up, and it's always something I enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. So did you clear that with your parents beforehand, or did you take it apart and they came in?
Oh, no, they came into my room, and I had taken the vacuum cleaner apart and didn't know how to put it back together. But
it eventually got put back together.
It did get put back together. My dad was also, mechanically minded.
Yeah. Okay. So all started from a pretty young age, and then eventually developed into a much larger path. Was it something that you went to school for, or did you kind of jump into it right out of high school? Like, how did it develop from there?
I jumped in straight out of high school. I was working at an independent shop and going to a trade school. Mm-hmm. And I wound up going to one of our community colleges in Dallas, Brookhaven.
Okay.
And they have an automotive program, and at the time, and it still is, one of the best automotive programs in the nation. But you wind up getting a degree out of it instead of just a trade school certificate. So that's why I went that route. And after 2.5 years with an independent, I wanted more training. And that's when I went and applied at Mercedes and kind of grew from there.
Was it specifically like you targeted Mercedes, or was that just one of the things that was presented to you and you just took it, or was it targeted for that?
I knew that I wanted to go for one of the higher end brands, Mercedes, BMW, Porsche, something like that. And I did a lot of research, and just the way they treat their technicians, the car history. I'm big on the history because that's what eventually wound up making me go with Mercedes, just the heritage of it. We were the first car brand. We patented the motor vehicle in 1896, and we just celebrated our 140th anniversary of that. Like, I've seen a few things on social media about it this week.
Yeah.
And, just things like we release any of our safety patents to any other manufacturer for $1.
Wow.
Like, things like that. Just, that's one of the many, many reasons I went with Mercedes.
Gotcha. So it feels like not only is Mercedes, trying to make a profit and trying to build a great car, but they also want to give back, it sounds like, to the car community with some of the stuff that they've learned and developed along the way, and that's why they do things like this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you've kind of explained this to me, and it's funny because I feel like this with any time I'm talking with somebody who's an expert in their field. They explain something to me once and it makes sense in the moment, and then I try to re-explain it to somebody else later, and I'm like, you know what? I don't remember half of this. So why don't you re-explain to me, like, I know going to the AMG schooling and learning all of this specialty stuff as a mechanic within Mercedes is a lot more specific than just going as a mechanic to, like you said, Brookhaven. So kind of explain to me what the differences are there.
So anytime we hire a new technician, you come in and you're essentially on quick service. We call it express. You've gone through some sort of trade school or technical training, or you have experience with another brand per se. And from there, if we see the potential in you, then we send you to what's now called our drive program, which is a 16-week program, all Mercedes specific, going all over all of our cars, current chassis, current technology, things like that. Then you go through a training team, and from there you will go out onto what's called mainline, which is essentially a flagging technician, but you're going to be working under an experienced technician.
Okay.
You do that anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Okay.
Then you're actually in the game at that point. That's kind of the steps to get on the line. And then, you have base certification, which is a certain number of online certifications and in-person trainings that you attend, along with tenure, then star certification, and then finally it's master certification. And they changed that about 5 years ago. And it's 5 years of tenure, and I think it's 70 in-person and online trainings that you have to attend. And for master certification, that's it.
Okay.
But they have one level higher, which is a certified diagnostic technician. And that's where it gets really intense, because that's not something you can just go to or get sent to. You have to be selected to go to the test just to see if you can go through the training.
Okay.
So you get sent. It's a 3-part written test, 1 day practical exam where you're diagnosing cars and bugs in front of trainers, and they're timing you on how you do it and the way in which you go about it and making sure that your process looks right. If you pass that, then you go through this training, which is a year long. It's 5 different weeks spaced throughout the year with study between. And at the end of that year, it's a 3-day final, which is, again, the 3-part written, which is on diagnostic theory, engine theory, things like that.
Uh-huh.
And then there are 2 practical exams, which are timed, 60 minutes. You're working on a computer and a car that are connected. Obviously, you do all that. They're watching your best practices, the way you protect the car from wires, put seat protection down, things like that, like down to that level of detail. And the type of people that are going through this training are master technicians, shop foremen, team leads, people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, the elite of the elite.
Yes.
Within the industry.
And it's a pass-fail at the end of this year, and it's about a 40% pass rate.
Oof. Okay. So lots of questions on that. It sounds like, it's funny because we talked about, you're the Doctor AMG, and I think if I sat down and told somebody like, hey, yeah, I've got this friend of mine who is a mechanic, and like they were like, well, my friend is a doctor, and I said, oh yeah, he has done like a schooling like a doctor. They would probably laugh at that because most people don't relate all this schooling to a mechanic
Completely.
But like there's so much more that goes into it, and that's what I remember from our conversation the first time is all of these different steps. I mean, especially, the first step being a year, and then it sounded like 5 years after that, and then you have to be selected for this other stuff. How many people do you think just say, this is too much for me?
Not no one. A lot of people don't even have the aspiration to get to this level, per se. Some guys are just happy being a line technician, and, we need those guys too. But I think this is for the people that are really passionate about what they do. It's not just for the person that comes in that this is just a job to them.
Yeah. Is that how it was to you? It was like, it wasn't just about advancing through your career. It was just your curiosity of wanting to learn more specific things about
absolutely,
it.
100%.
Yeah. And it just kept carrying you through all these different steps within Mercedes.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm still that way to this day.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was I went through that in 2014. And that was one of the first classes that they had done that certification. And then that was for commercial vehicles. In 2017, they announced the passenger car version of that class. And me and one other technician were the first two technicians in North America to have that certification level of both. So I went through that process twice.
Just because you enjoy going through this difficult stuff, I guess?
It's 100% the most stressful years of my life. but yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. So, like, when you get selected on that kind of final steps of what you were doing, and they take you to this wherever testing facility, and then they test you on all these things to see if you're even eligible to go to the next step of training. Is it like they time you on this stuff, and if you're too slow, then you're out? Like, what would get you or keep you from going to the next step when you're going through that initial testing?
The initial assessment, you have. I don't remember exactly how they scored the initial assessment, but you have to have a certain level of general knowledge and practical process in order for them to consider you to go through the rest of it. But on the final assessment, like I said, it's 2 practical exams where you are physically diagnosing a problem on a car with mirrored screens to 6 people that are watching what you're doing, and 3 written sections that you have to pass all 5 sections. If you fail any single one of them, then you fail the whole course. So everything is pass-fail. But
yeah. I just find it so interesting because the way you explain it just seems so much more stressful than what I would envision, as a mechanic. And that's one of the reasons why I just think it's so interesting to listen to you talk about it, is because of how all the people that are involved, all the testing that's involved. It relates to so many different things, I guess, within the CPA field of testing and having to pass all these things and study under people, et cetera, that I just relate on so many different levels to that.
Yeah.
So let's kind of take it from 2014 was when you passed kind of that initial testing, and then you went through it, it sounds like, again. But let's walk through kind of your Mercedes history and maybe get into why you ended up coming on to the podcast with a little unique spin on who Chris is and what you do. So you started in Mercedes all those years ago, and you've been working within it. And then eventually, what was it that took you into you and I meeting and working together and getting to this space?
What got us here is kind of how you initially started talking about this and what you just said. A lot of people don't realize what goes into it and how deep you can get into it. They just hear you're a technician. Oh, you just work on cars.
Right.
And in 2017, when I got that final certification, and I was one of the first ones to have that level, and there's still single-digit numbers of us in North America.
Then, right?
We were the first 2.
Yeah.
We got it simultaneously.
Yeah.
But most people just don't even realize that that's a thing within this industry. And I had gotten that level, and I just kind of wanted to show people this is what you can do with this career path.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I finally had the credentials to kind of back it up at that point.
Yeah.
So I just started posting random things that I did at work, photos of cars that I was working on. I had already developed quite a clientele list because I'm extremely OCD at work, and the Doctor AMG fits really well because my area and the cars I work on and the stalls are like an operating room.
Mm-hmm.
And it was slow at first. The first couple years, I went from 0 to 200 followers. And then I started posting videos when Reels first came out. And I think the first 3 months, I went from, 200 to 10,000 followers.
Yep.
And then over the next year or so, it went from 10,000 to 100,000. And since then, I took the last 6 months off, but I'm sitting around 200,000 followers on a few different social media platforms. And so it's not a giant following, but it's not nothing either.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it sounds like your heart is a lot of what the heart was of kind of the podcast, that, yeah, we like promoting our guests that come on, and we like to share business stuff, but part of it is just educational, to show
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you just said, to show people what's possible in entrepreneurship. And I think that it sounds like that's how you were, is like you had accomplished this thing that was extremely difficult, that took a lot of time. And I definitely relate to what you said on it took me a long time to feel confident enough to be like, do I really have the credentials to talk to someone in a certain manner? Because, people,
As an expert on the subject.
Exactly, yeah, as an expert on the subject, because there's so many people that have so much more experience or so much more whatever. So I get all that, and I get where you're coming from. At what point did it transition, or has it ever transitioned from, hey, this is just something that Chris is doing to educate people, to seeing the business potential behind it?
It transitioned probably in 2021 when MB USA reached out to me for a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never building social media to make money, but we came to some terms that were good for everyone. And I went through a couple years of contracts with them, in 6-month segments, and that was great. But I got a little burnout, and that's why I took the last 6 months off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm coming back into 2026, and the goal now is kind of to do more like this type of situation,
Yeah.
longer form content on YouTube, because from what I can tell, if I had been posting on YouTube a long time ago, doing the same numbers, I probably would have doing the same numbers what I'm doing on the other platforms. I probably would have already replaced my income, which is funny, but not.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. So it's probably been in the last couple of years where I've kind of seen the business potential of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been my main goal because I really enjoy what I do, and I want to keep doing it for a really long time. But having some sort of side gig going on that is totally within my control is something that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, like, kind of explain to me, what was it like? Was it a surprise when Mercedes reached out to you? Like, what was that process like? Because, I work with a lot of people who are small business owners, and, some of them are good-sized businesses with several hundred employees, but Mercedes is not several hundred employees. Mercedes is probably tens of thousands, if not more, employees.
Yeah.
So
maybe hundreds of thousands worldwide.
Yeah, it might be. So, like, what was that like? Was it just like an email? Did somebody just call you? What was that process like?
Yeah, somebody just called my cell phone.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, this is so-and-so with MB USA. We've seen what you're doing on social media, and we'd like to sit down and talk about a potential partnership. and I was at work at the time. Just a random phone number called me.
Yeah. Did you think it was fake at first?
I didn't think it was fake. I just didn't. I had no idea that they had even seen anything that I was doing, or
Yeah.
I still don't know how they got my number, because most people don't know, but dealerships are all franchised. So MBUSA reaching up is different from my dealership reaching up.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize, even in a large corporation, that so many different businesses are franchise models. And like you said, you think of, this large company like a Chick-fil-A, for instance, and this massive corporation, but each one of the locations is its own little franchise and its own little business. And I guess Mercedes is the same way, and people just don't realize that. They just think of the big Mercedes corporation guy.
Right.
So at that point, Mercedes reached out and you started doing partnerships with them, and then the social media continued to develop over all these years. What was it like? Because as I mentioned to you earlier, you're the first one that's come on that's really in any type of social media space, like as a business. Most people, they have a social media, but their business is their thing. So what are kind of the pros and cons that you've experienced with that? Because you mentioned burnout, so obviously it's not all great.
Yeah. Pros and cons, if you get into the right type of partnership with a good company, it's definitely more pro than con. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if somebody's paying you for something, it starts to feel less like a passion and more like a job. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I got to, because I got into social media because I was trying to further expand the public perception and just show my passion for what I was doing. And not that it killed it, it turned it into something I wasn't enjoying doing because I had to do it. And I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to boil down to just a small something like that, but
yeah. Well, I get it, because from this podcast and from the accounting space, I relate to, and this has been my experience with getting into anything social media related, is I wouldn't consider myself a social media guy at all. Like, it feels awkward and clunky to me, just because accountants are typically, hey, let me go do the work in the back, and then I'll give you the product, not let me stand in front of everybody and present myself. So I think that that was awkward for me. But the reason that I chose to go down this path was because I was doing something that I loved, that I wanted to share with people, because I got to sit down with all these business owners and listen to them talk and hear their thoughts. And it was so interesting to me that I thought, well, why don't I just put a video and a mic out and talk about it with people? And it sounds like with your beginnings, that's kind of what it was, is you were doing something that you really loved, working on cars, and then you just put a video recorder down and started recording yourself or making notes on it.
Yeah, 100%.
And that was like the same kind of experience that I had.
Yeah.
So you started recording yourself, you started doing this social media stuff. Tell me about your experience. Like, did you envision yourself as a social media person, or are you a lot like me and the fact that it feels awkward for me sometimes?
No, I'm 100% more like you. I didn't expect it to ever get big. What I do is very niche, but apparently there's a fairly large following for the niche that I'm good at. So it's something that I've become more comfortable with. It's made me a more well-spoken person. Kind of like accountants, technicians aren't always the most well-spoken, customer-facing people. So in that regard, it's made me better in that aspect. And also, it's made me better at my job, too. Because when you're showing something to the world, you you want to project the best version of yourself, and you want to put your best foot forward. But that carries over into your daily activities when you're not recording, because it becomes more of a habit, and not just something that you're showing. Which, I've seen it play out in some of the guys that work under me, because I'm a team leader. So I have 11 technicians that work under me as well. And that's been a really positive aspect of it. People have come to work for us because of my social media. People have wanted to come to my team because of my social media. And it can definitely be overwhelming, but it kind of just becomes something that's more normal life at some point. Because it's been a few years now.
Yep.
And I'm by no means famous, but in the right setting, people think that I'm like a celebrity.
Yeah. Well, I think that one thing that you started off with there is a really good thing to catch on to that people, I think, should understand. And to me, the first step in becoming an expert a lot of times is you have to learn something, but then after you learn something, having to explain it and teach somebody takes you to a much deeper level of understanding and becoming an expert at whatever it is you're doing. And it sounds like that's what happened to you, is once you had to explain and clearly communicate to all different levels of people, it really honed your skills on not just the speaking side, but also like how you were working within the car side.
Yeah, in all aspects of it, the way I work on cars, the efficiency in which I work on cars, how I train my team, how I interact with customers, it helped me in all of those aspects.
Yeah.
And that's not something I ever saw coming.
Yeah, and I think that I've listened to this a lot, and, we both do podcast stuff, and I'm sure you listen to podcasts outside of just recording stuff, but also just for fun. And I listen to all kinds of people talk about AI and different things, and, my industry's talked about a lot in will it replace accountants, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I listen to things out of curiosity and also just to keep myself informed. But the one thing that I hear people talk about all the time that they don't think will be replaced by AI is communication. And I think that especially younger people don't realize how important it is to be a good communicator. Like, if you can just work on that one skill set to be a better communicator to people, whether it's in cars, whether it's in accounting, whether it's in anything, I think that puts you way above your competition. Because, like, you as a technician, if you explain something poorly, even though you may be fully capable of working on somebody's car, I'm sure a client, if you don't explain something clearly, does not have faith in you after you have kind of stumbled on your words.
Yeah, even if you are 100% correct and know exactly what you're talking about, if you can't communicate clearly what you were doing, then
they just doubt you.
What's this guy doing?
Yeah. So I want to kind of walk through the Mercedes, because this is one of the things I'm very curious about, because as a Mercedes person, you can be looked at as a small piece of a very big wheel. So your clientele, you kind of mentioned, this helped you develop clientele. It helped you to probably have a better relationship with the current clients that you already had at the time. Have you gotten to a point within Mercedes that, like, you only work on the clientele that Chris wants to, or you still just kind of giving clients based off what the dealership wants you to do?
I'd say 90% plus of all the work that I do is just client request work.
Yeah.
From there, since I'm a team lead, I also dispatch the work to my team. And with my history and technical know-how, if I actually get caught up on the client request cars, then I just go into the work and I'm looking for the most difficult, like one-off random problems that is going to be hard for somebody else, but also probably waste more of their time than it would mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then would it be an accurate statement to say that because you've kind of developed not just the social side, but the mechanic side of you and gotten so specialized and truly become an expert and developed a good reputation within your industry, that it's allowed you to have more freedom with what you choose to work on and who you choose to work with?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that, like, you specifically, I want people to understand is, like, yeah, you do work within Mercedes, but you're almost like you're an entrepreneur, I think is the terminology,
Mm-hmm.
where you've developed your own little business almost within Mercedes. Yeah, because you've worked so hard to get really, really good at what you were doing. And I think that people get so consumed sometimes with making money and like, I need to do it now, that they don't spend the time to truly be an expert at what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that you've done the exact opposite. You know, you picked something that you enjoyed and then it just turned into a great career choice for you down the road.
Yeah.
But that wasn't, it's not like you chose to do this because you're like, oh, well, I can make X amount of money doing this.
That's something that I tell all the young guys all the time. If they're not really passionate about it, I tell them this probably isn't for you, or you won't ever be as successful as you think you're going to, or what you're striving to be. And that goes for any career. You know, like I said, I say this to young guys all the time. If you do something that you really enjoy doing and you get good at it and you find a niche and you find a market fit for it, making a decent living or a good living or a great living is just going to be an after effect of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the goal.
Yeah, it's not the goal. Yeah. And I think that, you know, this is, I guess, getting like more big picture and deep, but I think that I've listened to a lot of people talk about how if the goal is to make money, then, you know, you're always going to have this emptiness because you're always going to be like, well, it can be a little further, a little further, a little further. And people talk about like picking your number. And I think that that's something that I've been trying to wrestle with as both of us still being pretty young guys and lots of life ahead of us, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. That enjoying the process and enjoying the day-to-day and not just pursuing a goal or not just pursuing money is this internal thing that I've been trying to wrestle with myself to try to say, hey, you know, it's stressful to work 60 to 70 hours now sometimes, but, you know, try to take a step back, breathe, and enjoy the fact that you can do this and it's something that you really like. And I'm sure you've experienced that same thing with, I'm sure it's frustrating to be sitting there working on a car and being tired, but have you had those moments where you're just like, well, at least I get to do this?
Oh yeah, all the time. You know, there's very few days where I dread going into work.
Yeah.
It could be something that's really frustrating going on and maybe that day, but 99% of the days I go to work, I'm looking forward to going.
Yeah. Is there anything when you're training these guys, teaching these guys, where you just see them and it's either like they have this one thing and you know that this is really for them, or there's one thing that they do and you're like, this guy, this is probably not for him long term?
There's a lot of guys that come in that have all of the technical knowledge in the world. They're really, really intelligent and they can explain everything to you. But it's like in sports where somebody is a commentator. They know all about the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't transfer from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
Things just don't make sense. Like a brake pad gets put on backwards, or they just naturally break things. There's I don't know exactly what it is, but there's some sort of technical aptitude level between brain and hands that you can kind of just see in people. And you're like, that guy's going to get it.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's back to like the doctor comparison. Like we had a doctor come on that was an orthopedic surgeon. And, you know, the way he talks about like his hands and working on, like he works on knees and hips and like working on somebody's knees, it's like, it's every body is so much different that it's almost like you have to get in there and you almost do things.
Figure it out as you go.
Yeah, you figure it out as you go, and your hands just like kind of work. It's not like a textbook. I guess that's the comparison I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Is it's not like a textbook to where you just apply the exact same thing that's in the textbook to what it's like in real life.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely like that.
Is it like with him and with your body, there's so many things that can go so much differently than the example in the textbook? Is that kind of what it's like working on the cars, that there's so many little components or little things that could go wrong that it's really hard to just teach somebody through schooling?
It's difficult to teach someone through schooling. You can learn a lot and you can have a solid foundation through schooling, but to be a good, formidable technician, it's just experience.
Yeah.
Actual work on the cars.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to these guys that you're trying to teach and you're trying to like encourage them through their career, have you had to sit a guy down, or do they come to you and they're frustrated and you just tell them like, hey, you know, these are the things that I'm seeing that maybe is going to be challenging for you in the future. Are you sure you want to do this? Or do you just try to encourage best you can regardless of the person that you're working with?
No, I'll shoot pretty straight with people.
Yeah.
You know, if I really genuinely don't think somebody's going to get it, I'll tell them the things that I need to see improvement on. And if I don't, then they don't make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do they just kind of eventually get to a place where they've decided like, hey, they've gone as far as they want to go, and then they just choose to go a different path? Is that typically what happens?
They choose to go a different path because they get so frustrated, or things wind up getting broken, or sometimes the management just decides it's time.
Yeah, I got you. Well, let's take a different spin on the direction that we would normally go, because you're in an interesting spot with where you're at in life, with transitioning from what you've done historically with Mercedes and the social media stuff to now sounds like maybe taking a different approach on the social media side of things. So let's talk about like where you're going. And for those who don't know, one of the big reasons you took off was because you just got married. So congrats on that, Chris.
Thank you.
How was that, going out to a different country and getting married in this beautiful place?
It was as phenomenal as you could expect it to be. Did not disappoint.
Yeah. So do you think it was because of the wedding itself that made you take a step back? Because that's such a huge transition for anybody's life to get married, that it made you reevaluate like, hey, do I want to keep pursuing this with the same grind, kind of what you were saying earlier, as I have been, or do I want to take a different approach? Is that what made you even consider changing how you've done things so far?
That, and I'd taken a step back, and I realized that what I present on social media is naturally more longer form content and not short form. And all I've ever done is short form, 30 seconds to a minute, maybe 2 minutes max. And if you're doing a really in-depth engine teardown and rebuild, that's not 1 or 2 minutes. That could be a 15-minute, hour-long video. And so in that regard, that's one of the parts that I decided to go that direction with. And then it kind of becomes more of a piece that's permanently there and searchable versus Reels and TikToks. They're valid for about 3 days, and then they're gone.
News.
Yeah, then they're old news.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, like, if you were to tell me, hey, I'm going to get into social media, and I don't really know a lot about cars, but I know that if you're trying to explain to me how to rebuild an engine, there's only so much I can learn in 30 seconds. Like, why would you choose to go short form in the first place? Like, why did you not immediately jump into long form content? Was there something specific?
My goal is never to do DIY work.
Okay.
I'm not trying to create an instruction manual for people to work on their cars. It's more just trying to showcase exactly what I do, and hopefully people can pick things out of that by seeing what somebody that does it professionally does.
Okay. So it's almost like marketing material to clients or inspiring somebody who might be considering getting into your field. Is that kind of what the content was meant to be originally?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Just kind of showcasing what somebody that knows what they're doing, that's reached the highest certification level, how they actually work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not step 1, do this. Step 2, remove intake manifold.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've watched enough of your content to know that it's definitely not an instruction manual.
Yeah.
It's more enjoyable to watch as a consumer than it is somebody that's trying to learn what you do.
Yeah.
So I definitely relate to that. So then let's talk about what you plan on doing going forward then, with doing some long form, like you said, doing maybe some podcasting stuff. What do you envision the social media side of what you do in the future?
This year, I want to get into probably 10 to 30 minute videos going on YouTube. I'm going to have similar repairs to what I've been doing all along. You know, every day is different, every car is different, but that style of shooting, and then probably, you know, like a floating head off to the side, similar to, you know, the video gamers that stream while they're streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be voiceover work, explaining what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen anyone really doing anything like that.
In the car space?
In the car space?
Yeah.
And then I'll just take short clips out of that, and that'll go to more of the social platforms. But the goal is going to be more YouTube, longer form based than Instagram, TikTok.
Okay. So then if it's YouTube, and it still will be some Instagram, TikTok too, but it'll be a lot of energy poured into the YouTube.
Yeah.
What's kind of the long-term goal with that in general? Is it still just to produce the content itself? Is it to grow within the YouTube space? And, you know, because you've seen the potential now of what it can be from a business point of view.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do long term, is to push it completely into a full-blown business?
I don't know if it'll ever be its own full-blown business, because then I would stop doing what I actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
But like I said, my goal from the get-go was informing, educating, raising people's awareness of what technicians actually do, and hopefully raising the professionalism of other technicians as well.
Mm-hmm.
But in doing so, I've seen that I could also hopefully make side income off of it, and I think YouTube is a better use of that time than the other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
At least long term, once you grow your audience there. And so, you know, it's kind of the same goal, but it's got a side goal too that's, like we were just saying, kind of just an after effect of it. It's not the goal. But if it becomes something that replaces my income, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like regardless of what it is, you've just decided that, hey, I'm going to do stuff that I really enjoy and that I love. And if money comes, that's great, but you're just not the type of person that's going to just pursue money, like just for the sake of pursuing money.
No.
Do you think you've always been like that, and that you've always just wanted to do stuff that you love and just make enough to where you can enjoy the life that you want to live, and money's not been important to you?
It's not that, I mean, money's helpful for everyone, obviously.
You don't want to discourage it.
Things are expensive. They've
Yeah.
gotten very expensive in the last couple of years. But, in doing what I'm doing and the way I've lived life, money's never been a problem.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not rich, but it's never been something that has been an issue within my life because of the way I've worked.
Yeah.
So I can only see it getting better if I continue doing what I've done and doing what I do better.
Yeah. Do you think that you will always work within I know your videos, and for anybody who watches your videos, a lot of them are within the dealership itself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you'll always work in like a large dealership, or do you think that you'll ever work on things like just at your house or like in a much smaller space, I guess more intimate or larger space?
The only way I see that aspect changing is if my social media were to get really big,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I wound up doing something like this,
Mm-hmm.
but more of a garage style, and just started working for niche clients. And I wasn't really working on them for the repairs. It was more for the content of it. But it would have been, it's like a combination. Then I can still do repairs for the clients I really enjoy on my own, but it's not for that business side of it. Then at that point it would be for the social media side of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's my curiosity is, do you think you would even enjoy that? Or do you think you enjoy being in the larger space, working within, a team? Or do you think you would enjoy just Chris working in his own unique space?
There's pros and cons to both.
Mm-hmm.
It just like any workplace, there's people that you really enjoy, people you don't. There's politics in any workplace. So in that regard, it would be really nice to just focus on working on cars, but I also really enjoy seeing the light bulbs come on with newer technicians,
Mm-hmm.
and watching somebody go from, I don't really understand this, and then 6 months down the line to they just fixed that same thing that they didn't understand on their own without me. Those are, and I get to see that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a super fulfilling aspect of my career.
Yeah.
So, there's pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's been a lot like my journey, where I could have chosen to go out on my own and, start just me as a CPA and just do accounting, tax work with just me and,
Right.
Eventually hire people. But instead I chose to go a path where I joined a larger firm. And I think that it's a lot because of what you said. Like I really enjoy seeing people learning, becoming more of an expert based off what they know and then what they're learning along the way. And I think that I would really miss that if I didn't get to work with these people and see them grow. And I'm starting to really see certain people within the firm where it's like, whoa, where they were is way, or where they are now is way ahead of where they were a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's really rewarding to see people grow like that.
Not only that, when you're around other people, you learn things.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they have more experience, less experience, same experience. There's times probably every single week that I'm at work where I'm talking to somebody that's newer, he's got a year of experience, and they have a certain way that they've tried doing something that I've never thought about before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the cool things about our industry. I feel like it's similar to medical. Like people just have different mindsets, and you learn something from everyone.
Yeah.
You never know everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how we are. We tell people all the time that there's nobody that can know everything about, I'm in tax specifically.
Yeah.
There's nobody that can know everything about tax. There's too much to know. And it sounds like you guys are the same, where it's like there's nobody that can know every single thing about the car and how to fix it. There's always more that you can learn.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up with kind of a few fun questions, and then we always wrap up with the same question here at the end.
Got it.
But what is it about, and you kind of talked about this earlier, but maybe you can give me a little more about Mercedes that you would still pick today over any other car brand? Or would you even consider a different car brand if you were to have to learn a whole new car?
I mean, similar. I wouldn't go to another brand at this point. No.
Yeah, then why Mercedes? Like, what exactly is it?
Another aspect of it is our AMG line. You know, they're street legal race cars. Every few years they'll come out with a different Black Series, and the last one was the GT Black Series that came out in 2021, set the Nürburgring lap record, faster than the 911 at the time, current model year, and the performance aspect is cool, but the AMG clientele is usually even cooler. They can be some of the more difficult clients, but they can also be the clients that are really OCD and have more respect for what you do if you're doing it well and correctly.
I get
because
that.
they have a higher expectation level. But when you already meet and exceed their expectation levels, they go from the difficult client to the better client because they're willing to come back to you and wait or pay more or whatever because they found somebody that meets their expectations.
Yeah, I've definitely related to that on the client side where, you know, when you have somebody who has such a high level of expertise within your field, you know, and then you do meet them, they value your services so much more, like you said, that they become more patient with you if, you know, you're busy and you're trying to get to them, or, you know, you have fee increases. They don't really worry about it as much because they know that it's really, really hard to find somebody who has that deep of an understanding about, in your case, their car, in my case, their tax return.
Right.
And people, once you see that, it's really, really a great insight to like business and how that piece of it works. Another thing that we talked about, you know, when you and I first met back a few years ago, was your car. Why was your car, Chris, so special, and why did you choose that car? Because I remember you telling me back then. So tell us what about that car is it?
So obviously nobody else knows. I have a 2021 E63 wagon 23, sorry. COVID happened. There was an E63 in 21. We didn't have one in 22. And then there was a final edition that we released in 23. 999 units. But there were no build allocations. Custom designed from the ground up, or wheels up. And my GM put some feelers out there, and Mercedes wound up releasing, I think it was 10 or 12 build allocations within North America. And my car is one of those. So I got to build my car from the ground up. It was special because at the time we thought it was going to be the last V8 AMG. We've since backtracked that, thank God. But at the time, it was one of the last V8 AMGs that were supposedly coming out on the market. And in the U.S., you don't hardly ever see wagons. And I've always loved the look of wagons, the shooting brake. And so it was an current model year E63S build allocation, potentially last V8. And that's what made it special.
Yeah. And I think that definitely the car guys that listen to this is, you know, it was a wagon, which is unique to what your taste is in cars.
Yeah.
But then to say it was, you said 10 or 12 out of, you know, this whole pool that were actually you were able to specialize. When you say 10 or 12 out of whatever number, car guys know that, like, that's a very unique car.
Yeah. My car doesn't look super fancy. It's a good-looking car, but it's one of those cars that the average person isn't going to know what it is. But it's also one of those cars that if you know, like, it's
Yeah, well, that's what I like. You know, I'm an Aston guy, and
Yeah.
I think that Astons in general, that's how they are. It's like people don't look at an Aston the same way that they look at like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, something that's extremely flashy.
Right.
But people who understand cars know that like Astons can be a very unique, really cool car.
Absolutely.
So I get that.
I'm a big fan of Aston Martin.
Yeah.
So.
Well, does Mercedes still make Aston's engine?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, we
what I
make the
thought.
M177 twin turbo V8.
Yeah, because that was because of like, or since 2019, or it wasn't that long ago that Mercedes started making Aston's engine, right?
Yeah, I think it was the 177 bi-turbo V8 came out in 2017.
Okay, 2017.
And I think it was the Vantage that
Yeah.
it was going in.
Yeah.
So
So it's a fairly recent
So the
thing.
Vantage has an AMG engine in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we have similar taste in
Yeah.
cars, at least in the engine itself.
Yeah.
So what are one of the cooler places that you've traveled due to the Mercedes connection?
Oh, I have a few of these.
Yeah.
We'll start with the least interesting and end at the most interesting. So I've been to Birmingham, Alabama. That's where our U.S. plant is.
Mm-hmm.
We do what's called brand immersion, where it's a 3-day where you go through some courses, but also you get to tour the plant. You take some rides in the cars, in G-Wagons, in their natural environment. You know, you get to see the KUKA robots assembling cars, no phones allowed type
that's cool.
situation. That's the least cool place that I've been. I've been over to Germany. I've seen the engine factory in Alfalterbach. That was really, really incredible. I didn't realize that Alfalterbach is such a small town. It's out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just this giant engine factory. You'd go for like 10 miles and there's nothing. And then you pull up in this little Alfalterbach town and this giant, it's almost a city within itself.
Yeah, the building.
AMG just along it, not the size of the Tesla building in Austin size, but similar situation. And the coolest thing that's happened to me because of Mercedes and social media combined was in 2021, the Mercedes AMG F1 team contacted me and they asked me to come hang out down with the team for the Austin F1 race.
Yep.
Got to meet Lewis Hamilton. You know, he's probably the one person in life that's my hero. And after watching the team and him all day, this was a Thursday. He turned around and was like, "Hey, I've seen you here all day, but I don't know you. I'm Lewis." And I was like, "Yeah, I know you're Lewis." And sat there and talked to me for 10 minutes about what I did for Mercedes, and one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, I'm fairly new to F1 within the last couple of years, but to meet any of those guys, especially on their like practice or whatever it was, that would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, I've been following Lewis Hamilton since about 2012. So
even more special than for you.
it was pretty incredible.
Cool. The last thing that we like to wrap up with, and you can spin this however you want to with kind of your background, is for entrepreneurs specifically who are either, you know, thinking about an entrepreneurial journey or getting into it or currently in it. What's the best advice that you could give them on being an entrepreneur and pursuing, you know, their dreams, I guess?
For me, there's two aspects to this. One, it should definitely be something you really enjoy. And two, the sooner you start posting what you do, it allows people to see what you do. It lets them put a face to a building or a service. But the sooner you start doing that, the more your name gets out there. And it starts making you better in itself. So enjoy what you do and just post what you do.
Yeah.
And that may turn into a side business for you, or it may just be the engine that helps your actual business keep going.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. And then maybe one day you'll get to meet somebody that you've followed for all these years. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. We appreciate you coming on. It's been really cool to listen to your story and hear about the journey that you've taken.
Yeah, this was fun.